Now it's time for Speaking of Schmoedown, the show with a name too good to cancel.
Hey everybody, Jay Wade here for another episode of Speaking of Schmoedown, a show devoted to the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. Had a fun one this week, man. Really enjoyed this. Something that I've been predicting would happen for years and has not happened, actually happened finally. But I've been calling it for a while. There are a couple people out there who can back me up on that. But joining me here once again is ASG. ASG, buddy. How's it going, man?
Yeah, you've certainly been calling it. I didn't believe it. I thought it would be saved for a live event or something. But yeah, you've been calling the Team Action reunion for quite some time now.
Yeah, well, my thing with this started about 3 years ago. Initially, in my mind, I had it where Team Action, it was all a ploy. It was all planned that they broke up. And that they had this long game planned to end Roca and the Horsemen for good. That's what I had envisioned in my mind. It didn't quite turn out that way, but I always kind of knew, dude, Team Action's got to come back. So this was awesome for me, and it finally gave me a little bit of vindication for those who know I've been calling it. But the only thing I'm going to say, and this is not a complaint or a nitpick on anything, the way they revealed that Team Action was going to be playing this match, but how I had envisioned it was Guy on the desk with Mark, the clock's running down, Bateman can't find anyone, and Guy just says, you know what, I'll do it, and he just takes the headset off, gets up and walks over to Bateman. Team Action is back. They gotta scramble. They call Ken over. Ken sits down at the desk and the match is on. That's kind of how I thought it would go. No complaints with how it went. I just, and that for me, back to, if that's the right word in that context, I don't know, but it made me think of back when I was 5 or 6 in Texas, and me and my brothers and dad would watch WWF on Saturdays on the television there. And, we're talking Junkyard Dog and, the old school days. And, there were those moments where Lawler, whoever the commentator would get up off that desk and join in a match. And that's kind of what I was thinking when I envisioned that. But man, What did you think when Guy came out?
I mean, I thought it was interesting. It was like, oh, Rachel's calling this match. Ken's calling this match. Interesting. We have no Guy this week. But what of what I would have done realm, I guess what I would have done is I would have had Bateman challenge Radis with him saying you need to find the team's partner, that whole scene. I would have put that scene at the end of the pay-per-view, so we would have spent all week thinking about who's going to be Ben's partner, instead of who he's going to challenge. But other than that, it was a great episode in terms of that element of setup, and really, even then I wouldn't have saw it coming, so...
See, I've seen that coming for a very long time. In my mind, Team Action...
I just refuse to believe.
In my mind, they're just too good. And not even as a competing trivia team, of course, they're good. But I mean, as characters and their work together, as far as the show and performance goes and entertainment, they're too good to keep apart forever, man. But it did bring up some interesting things. And I know before we talked, I said I had the one thing I was going to bring up, but this just reminded me. This does bring up interesting points, though, because Guy said last night that he's managing Bateman, but as far as we know, Bateman is in the den. Because remember, before the match, you and I were talking, and I was kind of saying, really, no matter who Bateman's partner was, if they weren't in the den, were we going to then find out that they were joining the den, or would it just be one of those where his partner would be freelance? But here it was interesting because Guy is like, Team Action is like back, where Bateman kind of sounded like this was a one-off kind of a deal. And then with Guy saying he's managing Bateman, I was like, Whoa. He's stepping on Kate's toes now.
For sure. And we'll see if there comes a power struggle or how they deal with that. Yeah, I think Ben was saying that team action was a one-time thing, not necessarily, and then Guy even pivoted that to being talking about manager, not about the team. So that doesn't go against what Ben said. So we'll see if they end up working together, similar to how Kate and Grace work together, or if there will be a struggle. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Well, I would be interested in seeing how the Saul show takes this. Because I could see him being a pretty fierce defender of the Den and the people that they've got there now, Harper, Kate, and now Bateman, and maybe
Jed Kemp. Yep.
maybe there could be a developing beef between Guy and the Saul show, with Guy trying to muscle his way around, and Saul show being like, "Yo, not on my watch, dude." I don't know.
I guess we'll see. It all depends on exactly how they deal with this Guy being Ben's manager news, because it didn't sound like Guy was saying that he wants to create his own faction. He just said he wants to manage Ben, whatever that means. So maybe he's just going to fill in when Kate's not there. TBD, I guess.
Very interesting development there. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad I pay attention to what people say so much, because sometimes it's easy just to not really listen, just to hear in general what they're saying. But if you really listen to the words that people say, you can find a lot of things that make your ears perk up, and you're just kind of like, I wonder if that had any meaning, and if so, what could develop. But before we're talking, you had a little bit of speculation concerning Janine the Machine.
Yes. So with Harley betraying Jacoby and going with Roxy, which, I agree with, some people have said that they would have liked it better if Harley used the "Don't Trust Anybody" line instead of Roxy, so it wasn't as much of a repeat of the Ethan Janine line. I kind of agree with that. But going on now, I believe what you might see as the next thing is that Jacoby will reteam with Janine in the dungeon, reforming what was it, Blackjack, and then playing Harley and Ethan as a teams match.
I could see that, and that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. Now, if that were to happen, who would you put your money on?
Ooh, that is a good question. That would be a very, very even match.
I agree.
I don't know. I think I would slightly lean Jacoby and Janine, maybe, because I think their combined might be better than Ethan and Harley. It really depends with these level of questions, though, and how it's becoming more what's it called, relatable or whatever in round one, and then Ethan can take over in the subsequent rounds. That seems to actually, now that I think about it, more strengthen Ethan's team with that format.
Well, we'll see what happens, man. Maybe that's what we get, and when it comes, we will talk about it then for sure. But for now, everybody, that's it for the speculation bit of the show. We're going to jump over into ASG's technical difficulties.
All right. So we talked about the reunion of Team Action, which led to the Action versus. I'm sorry. What was Lomas and Radis? What was their team called?
The Reckoning.
The Reckoning.
Yes.
So you got the Reckoning versus Team Action, and we're going to talk about a certain question in round 2 regarding Tom Cruise. So here's the question about Mission Impossible.
It was almost canon. It was almost canon.
Which film in the Mission Impossible franchise is largely set in Australia?
At this point, I don't know if it's a real
conferring or
5, 4,
just toying with
3.
us?
We just do our job, you know. 2.
You asked which
1.
film MI2.
That is incorrect. Need the full answer.
What?
Need the full answer of the movie.
So
So
you're
it's
saying-
now a steal opportunity for The Reckoning. Which film in the Mission Impossible franchise?
Actually, we're going to challenge this before they give their answer because we don't want it. Yeah, we got a challenge before they give their
All
answer.
right, there's a challenge on the floor. What is the challenge?
So if you're saying in the Mission Impossible franchise, which one is it? And I say MI2, which is what is on the cover, and you're already inferring it's MI2. So if it's the wrong movie straight up, cool, but I'm just saying.
And I will add to the clarification of the challenge that in the new rules defined in the rule book, if the nature of the question suggests a piece of the franchise, MI2, second entry in the franchise, is specified in our answer, which makes it correct.
And the only reason we're challenging is based off the idea that you were saying we need the full title. So if it's just wrong, totally cool, but that's where our challenge comes from.
Respectfully.
For that. All right, we do hear a rebuttal from The Reckoning. They are allowed that neither team has a manager, which it would actually be nice for once to have a manager here. The Reckoning, what is your rebuttal to the challenge?
Well, you had specified the franchise, so if he had just said 2, that would be correct. But he said MI2, which was adding something additional to the subtitle. So I think it should be incorrect.
All right.
That's the name
It was,
of the movie.
it was a terrible rebuttal.
That was the worst rebuttal.
Right,
Hey,
we'll
this is our
let them
rebuttal.
talk amongst
Shut your
themselves,
mouth.
and we will now be back with our ruling with the line judge right after this. We're back, and we have the combination after consulting with the line judge, Ken, and looking at multiple different websites and hearing both arguments. This is kind of a tricky situation because Andrew Guy said MI2 just in the nick of time, which is technically one of the Mission Impossible movies as it is listed on both IMDb and the movie poster. The question itself, as both teams have acknowledged, was which film in the Mission Impossible franchise. And so we are going to award the points to Team Action. Please do not get to second base with the desk. No, honey, please do not take advantage of the desk. We are going to give them the points. If there is any more desk humping, we will take those points away. And we now move on to your next question in round number 2. Keep in mind, Team Action retains their use of a challenge because this challenge.
So, first things first, and I know we spoke about this privately before. First thing we got to mention is that Mark kind of gave away that the answer was Mission Impossible 2. He's really just, if he's going to rule it wrong, he's got to just say it's wrong, not give any further details. And then when you find out what the right answer is, that's when the challenge could have occurred. Just a slight little note, I guess, on my end. But let's go to the actual challenge in question. So first we have the question of, is MI2 a valid answer? And I question whether or not, if the answer was Independence Day and you wrote ID4, whether that would be a valid answer. And I was told, according to the rule book, that any alternate title, which includes ID4 for Independence Day, is an acceptable answer. So I went into IMDb and I looked up alternate titles for Mission Impossible 2, and we see right here the second one, alternate title MI2. So therefore, based on that aspect of the challenge, I would say that that's a valid answer just right there without going in anything further. What do you think?
Yeah, based on that there, yes, I would agree with that assessment. Absolutely. But I also do want to point out that it was very interesting, the counter argument. I mean, it really wasn't much of a counter argument.
Yeah, I do not think that was the best way to counter argue. I think the counter argument should have just been, you're supposed to answer full title. This is not the full. This was not the full title of the movie, and then find out that that's an alternate title. Because let's get into what the actual ruling stated, which is interesting. They said because it was a franchise, you could just say MI2, the second one, anything like that, and you wouldn't even need the exact title as long as you said it was the second film of the franchise. So based on that, if the question was regarding the second film of the Fast and Furious franchise, you wouldn't have to say Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah.
You could just say the second one, the third one, etc. Once again, just a little bit of frustration. We don't have the new rule book, so I can't state whether or not that is what the rule book actually says. But I don't know about you, but I think full title should, or alternate title, but the title of the movie or the alternate title should be the only answers accepted, not just, oh, this numbered film in the franchise when you're asking what film in the franchise.
Because that's exactly how I took the question also was, the answer could have been the fourth or the fifth or number 5 or number, whatever. However, I do want to say that thinking about this, the way the question was worded, even if MI2 was not an official alternate answer, I think it should have still been accepted because he's giving it. We all know that MI is short for Mission Impossible, and he's saying 2. So technically, he was giving, you know what I'm saying? He was giving the right answer, even if MI2 was not an official alternate name. He still technically did give the right answer.
So going back to the Fast and Furious, if you said Fast and Furious 2, it's everybody now knows you mean the second one, but let's say that's not an alternate title because I don't know if it is. Let's say the only title was Too Fast, Too Furious. Are you saying that Fast and Furious 2 should be acceptable?
I think it should be because it's in the Fast and Furious franchise. The name of the overall franchise is Fast and Furious. So in my mind, and again, given the way the question was worded, not asking for the exact title of the movie, but rather asking for which sequel, I guess the best way to put it, for lack of better thinking in the moment, which sequel number it was in the franchise. To me, I mean, yeah, it would be acceptable because you weren't asking, you named the franchise. It's not like you were like Furiously Fast 2, and we're all like, well, you know what I meant. No, that wouldn't fly, but it is the Fast and Furious franchise, and each movie has a subtitle. Most franchises are like that. You know what I mean? They have subtitles, so I mean, I would think it would be acceptable.
Okay, I guess I disagree. Because I don't consider those subtitles. When you go to, like, let's say Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 and then have a subtitle, that's a subtitle. Okay. Now, when you completely alternate the title of your movie, to me, that's not a subtitle. So that's my viewing on the topic.
Okay.
Anyway.
Think about it a little bit more. I'd have to think about it a little bit more.
So, yeah, if anybody has their opinions, let us know. And, we're not saying anybody is definitely wrong, just we have our own opinions on how you answer the question. So we'll see what happens with Bateman versus Radis, if there's anything going on there, or whatever the undercard might be. It'll be interesting to see. So I'll see you next week.
And there we had ASG's technical difficulties, everyone. Now it is time for yet another installment of Top 3s with Euro Schmo.
Hello, it's Liam with Euro Schmo and Save My Movies on the Euro Schmo channel. Obviously, it's just me today, so sorry everyone if you're hoping to have Ben or Matt with me, but it is just me, so you have to cope with that, I'm afraid. So for this week's Euro Schmo's Top 3, I decided to pick the top 3 players to come back from retirement. So we are talking players who have left the Schmoedown, said they were done, said they retired, and decided to return at some point in the future. Now, this is obviously inspired by the week's event in the Schmoedown, And that brings us to my number 3. And I know it's just happened, but I think because it was so surprising and it was also the reveal of the Illuminati, Mr. Sam Levine is my number 3 pick. Now, don't get me wrong, if I was to do this list again, maybe at the end of the season, there could be a big chance that Sam Levine moves up my list because it sounds like he had a very good start, as we know, and he may have a real good run this year. I mean, he has a title shot now. So when I record this, when this gets showed to you all, he may be the singles champion and he might have a great year. We don't know. So Sam Levine, it was a massive shock that he come back. I was saying just a few weeks before that I thought he was going to retire. He had his retirement video and it was completely unexpected. So just for that alone, he's making this list. But obviously we haven't seen enough of what he can do yet when he comes back in this year. So he may very much grow and potentially be number 2 or 1 on the list, but I still had to put him on because I'm so excited to see what he does this year. So I have Sam Levine at number 3. At number 2, I have Mark Yody Riley. Now, he's Mark Yody Riley for a reason, and obviously the Yody Award, he was the inaugural winner of that, so he's a great personality of the Schmoedown. Obviously, he was one of the first to be the belt holders from season 1, and obviously he had a great run with Wolves of Steel with Clark Wolf, and that a few weeks ago on our top 3 we had Clark's reveal as one of our best moments in terms of reveals in the Schmoedown, and it was really good when Mark came out and that became a team. Obviously Mark decided to retire, and it was really, really lovely to see him come back and have some good runs. Last year, he did quite well in the singles tournament. He beat Liz Shannon Miller. He had a good run with Ben Bateman coming back, and Who's the Boss did really well. So I'm really pleased that Mark came back. He's obviously one of the biggest faces in the Schmoedown, and it feels like a nicer Schmoedown with Mark Riley in it. So he is my number 2. Now, number 1, I don't think, again, is going to be much of a shock to anyone. And again, this was our number 1 for our best reveal of the Schmoedown ever, which was the 5 Horsemen, 4 to 5, Dan Murrell, back from retirement in the best reveal of all time. Yeah. And to see what Dan Murrell then did when he did come back was absolutely unbelievable. Became singles title champion, became teams title champion, and proved that he is the greatest of all time. He proved it again when he beat John Roker at last year's Spectacular. And I cannot wait to see Murrell back in Schmoedown this year. So there we have it. Our Euroschmo's top 3 picks for players to come back from retirement. At number 3, Sam Levine, and I hope to see so much more from him this year. I'm really excited to see what he can do. Number 2, Mark Yody Riley, and number 1, Dangerous Dan Murrell. So thanks for listening. Obviously, it's just me this week. If you like to catch Euroschmo, which will have me, Ben, and Matt on most weeks, then we are on 8 p.m. UK time and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in America. We have lots of fun things going on in the show. We also have a new show called Save My Movies, which is airing every fortnight most weeks, where we pick a topic and we save 3 films within that category. Our first one was Pixar, and it's a real good fun show to be a part of. So hopefully you can check that out as well. As for right now, I hope you enjoy the rest of the show and Speaking of Schmoedown, and we shall see you next week for another top 3. Bye-bye.
And there you have it, everybody. That is this week's Speaking of Schmoedown. There is no closing commentary for me this week. I just had a good time enjoying these matches. So until next week, everyone, please have a great and safe week. You want to hear something funny? The mic wasn't on that whole time.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So smooth.